Hi, my name is Benedicta Afi-Agboche. I'm an intersectional feminist and an advocate against gender-based violence. For years, I have done my advocacy through my writings, which is poetry and storytelling. Now, as part of my MA program, I am embarking on this project, which is a podcast engaging men in ending gender-based violence. So I am still using storytelling as a tool for advocacy, but it is in the form of a video podcast. This podcast is going to bring us expert opinions, lived experiences of gender-based advocates, and the whole point is to center male voices and for men to engage each other and critique their behaviors, and of course to recruit male allyship in ending gender-based violence against women and girls. Join us on this episode, on this journey. It's going to be a 4-episode podcast, and the theme for the podcast is Protect Her, where men are empowered and motivated to be protectors of women and girls so that we can end gender-based violence. As a journalist, how can we reframe stories concerning gender-based violence so that it addresses the issue as a societal one?
I think the question in itself attempts to answer it as to the approach in treating it as isolated incidents instead of systemic problems in terms of whether or not as a people, the culture is really one that sees the abuse of women as a normality or a formality. Hence, it is not being tackled in the grand nature with which it must be looked at, or in the perspective or the lenses under which it must be looked at. Gradually, there is a lot more in terms of training that's coming on board for journalists, particularly female journalists who are championing the gender-related card. They are beginning to tell the stories beyond the angle of the isolated instances where we have reported it for a very long time. And so now it's becoming more grouped, more recognized as a persistent problem inherent within the Ghanaian society. We haven't reached the levels quite yet where we can say that we've got a stranglehold or a grasp of how things are. But I think a lot more can be done, particularly for newsrooms, in terms of training, in terms of specialization as well. Because when there's more specialization, persons who are specialized in telling the gender-related stories can better bring out the challenge in its true nature so that it can be tackled head-on.
All right. So what about male allyship in telling these stories? There's a story out there, I don't know if you've read about it or come across it. A 49-year-old man defiled a 13-year-old girl because of 80 cedis, allegedly. If these stories when these stories are out, that the way the story is even presented, it makes the people respond in a way that blames the victim. So one of the comments under the post was that police should ask what the victim did.
When to do, yeah.
Yes, and all that. And she stole the man's money, so the man had to get his pound of flesh, and that it will serve as a deterrent to others. Do you think that media framing plays a role in this kind of comments and response?
No, I would disagree on matters like that. Yes, I would agree. I would disagree with the example that's been given, with the example specific that's been given. That's what I would disagree with. That's just a very ignorant, making a very ignorant statement, with all due respect. Yes, there's been a persistent challenge of how these stories are told. And I say this without any prejudice. Well, there will be prejudice, because I believe our brothers and sisters who work with the account media outlets, they've come under a lot of flack, and they are reforming, but they can do way better in terms of how they report these incidences of rape and what have you. They can tell the stories better. They can report on the issues better as to what happened, because then to embellish it. And that's where the accusations of framing and how we've not been able to frame properly these stories come up every now and then. But for this particular example, that particular comment is just a very ignorant individual who is making a comment which is very, very unfortunate.
All right. So, what ethical considerations guide you when you report on either sexual harassment or violence against women? Do you...
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm listening.
So for us, in terms of, when I say us, those of us received some level of training.
I'm losing you.
The identity of the individual.
Hello, hold on. Okay, let me listen again. I lost you for a bit.
I'm saying that one of the most important things is keeping the identity of the victim hidden and not showing their face in any way or form when you tell the story. And so you try and keep all of those things out of the public space, and you just report on the acts, particularly because we live in a society where if it's not reported, the police might not be interested in taking up the action, and it might be left to being settled between the two families and the like. And so we find a way to tell the story such that the identity of the victim is hidden, but we are able to tell the story so that action can be brought there on the perpetrator who undertook the heinous act.
All right. Thank you. And so, newsrooms themselves are not immune to sexual harassment. Beyond reporting, as you've mentioned, reporting these cases, how can male journalists use their platform to advocate for cultural change within their own newsrooms?
Well, I believe that's another of the areas where there has to be a lot more in terms of, I will call it advocacy, and generally the culture is one that doesn't, it allows for pedophilia, and it doesn't really see a lot of change in terms of the way people behave. But that's changing because increasingly, not just journalists, but education and modernity is allowing that we're able to call out such persons who propagate things like that. And so I've seen persons who talk about they having to date persons who are way younger and all of that, receiving a lot of flack, a lot of criticism, not just from journalists, but from the general populace as well. It will take time, but as to how quickly that can come about is what I honestly would say doesn't really lie in the remit of journalists. Yes, we'll keep on telling the stories, and perhaps as media houses as well and news planners will have to begin to take into consideration the role of change we can play in being able to tell such stories as well. And so that's what we'll seek to do, even as we continue in our efforts to tell these stories and tell them right in getting things done. and changing the culture in totality.
All right. Thank you. One last thing before you go. In your opinion, what is one action every man listening to you should take immediately, not in the near future, not work, like immediately, to make women feel safer in homes and relationships and communities?
I mean, for men, you always tell them, I mean, something that if they do to your sister, you'll not be happy about it. Don't do it to somebody else's sister. Don't force yourself on another person. I don't know what enjoyment you gain or you receive from forcing yourself on somebody. And so, as a man, it's one thing that I always tell my friends that, I mean, if there's anything I can be caught slacking on, it's not sexual predatory behavior. And if you're somebody who likes that, you can't be close to me. I think that's in the small way out of my circle and the likes, what I can do, and then I find ways to propagate it. And so within our own circles, we should be able to find ways where we can put each other in check, because it's not very great behavior, I have to be honest.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
So that was Mawina Egbeda. He works as a journalist at Media General. He ushered us into this episode where we are going to talk about the role media plays in normalizing or sometimes enabling some of these harmful gender norms. The stories we tell, the way the stories are told, it can either shape society to be good or society to continue the problem of gender-based violence. And so one thing he said was that we should tell the stories, we should advocate. And as the media can be a tool for advocacy, what are the practices or the ways we use this media to do this advocacy? With me in the studio, I have two wonderful gentlemen, a filmmaker and then a poet. So before I even get to the story, or I give over to them, let me share a little story. I am also a gender-based advocate. I advocate against gender-based violence. And I used to write a lot of poetry as a tool for advocacy. And then there was an experience I had with a male friend who, because of the things I wrote, it triggered him or it gave him ideas in a way. It looked as if I had given him a manual to try and abuse me. Because I remember the words he told me was, I told him, don't be a predator, don't do this. And he said, I just want to know how the poem will be written. How would you put it? What would the words read? And I had to beg and I'm not going to write about this. I'm not going to write any poetry. Please let me go. And he said, okay. I think since that time, about a year or two, I was very afraid of my voice when it came to using poetry as a tool for advocacy, because I didn't want another situation where someone would read a poem I had written and think that I am giving them an instruction manual on how to rape me. And so I have a poet here, I have a filmmaker here. As storytellers, how do we tell these stories so that they don't sensationalize, or for people who are predators, they don't see it and say, this is how they've told this, let me try it that way. How do we tell stories so that it actually reveals a problem and how we should solve it? And so I will first move to, I will let them introduce themselves and then I will take the questioning from there. So Eddie, even though I've said your name, tell us about yourself.
Yes, you said my name. So my name is Kwabena Eddie Mankata. Okay, primarily, let me say I'm a filmmaker.
All right.
And Joaquin speaks. I'm a poet, and also, I'm delving into filmmaking recently. So
Oh, nice. Then I'm lucky. So, according to research, film plays a role in perpetuating these harmful stereotypes by the way they portray gender-based violence in movies, in documentaries, and all that. I think it basically has to do with the fact that people want to tell it as it is so that we know that there's a problem. But sometimes by trying to mirror society, we actually end up becoming part of the problem. As a filmmaker, what do you think that filmmakers or people in the film industry can do differently?
Okay. I think that the first thing that we have established that film is very powerful.
Yes.
I mean, the power it carries in shaping society is inexplicable, so, and looking at the film that we have been producing in this country, we can tell that from the early 2000s, all those commercial films, the way they were portraying domestic abuse, sexual exploitation, and even emotional abuse, the context, sometimes it was for comic relief. And so you watch it and you're just laughing it off instead of actually being drawn to the issue at hand. Or sometimes they serve abuse as some sort of punishment. It's even more dangerous if it becomes a corrective measure. Like you find a man hitting a woman because the woman did something, is captured in a way that, this is the right thing to do. That's dangerous.
Okay.
And I think as filmmakers, over the years, we are getting better.
Hold on to that also, because you mentioned Kumawood movies portraying that. Mawena also said Akan media houses have a way of reporting cases of abuse, and they exaggerate it to the point where sometimes it becomes almost comical. Why do you think that is? Is it an issue of language?
No.
Or is it culture of the language?
That same language, I can present the issue in the way that is serious. So it's not language. It's the way they want to present it so that they get more audience, they get content, they get more people to listen to them.
So in that context, it's still language.
It's still language. I mean, so what I mean is that same language, I can present something serious, I can present something very comical, but it's the same language. But why am I presenting it comical? What is the essence? You want people to laugh, you want people to listen to your radio station, you want people to tune in and also gain a large following. And that's what the problem is. I mean, look at what is happening these days with reels and content.
Okay.
The kind of reels that are out there, sexualizing everything. You find a man that has 2 male friends, and then the man is playing 2 or 3 women. One comes and they are able to sneak the other lady behind the door. Another lady comes and then he ends up like playing both of them, and then you read comments, Charlie, manhood, Charlie, well done. But there's an issue there. There's really an issue there. You get it? So if we don't look at these things well and address it as it has to be addressed, it's going to be a problem. When you look at it and you laugh and you click and you just move along, but something is being ministered in quotes to you, is entering your subconscious mind in that way, and it's shaping you directly, and you don't know. One day you get up and then you find out the thing that should rather break your heart is making you laugh.
Okay.
And that is serious.
So Jewel then seems to disagree. You said it's not language.
No, I'm saying
but he said it's language.
No, I'm saying that everything is language. What we are saying is language. The way I present it to you is language. Again, I can talk to you in a way that is very funny, in a way that is comical. It's still language.
Yeah.
And why is it comic?
No, but then why is it that in films or even in news reports, when we talk about violence against women and we say it in English, it's not said in a comical way. But the moment, I'm not targeting any language in particular here, it's just that we are used to the tree ones. Yeah. The moment it changes to tree, it goes to a Kumawood movie. You see somebody beating someone and it's funny. Or they are telling us that a man has defiled a child and they say it's for us to laugh.
I've also had people report in tree that they don't make mockery out of it. Have you heard? You've heard people, some news agency that speak, and they don't do that.
So far, the ones I have heard are very exaggerated.
You get it.
And
so they have an option.
And I can't say those things.
Yes, they have an option.
I can't say those things.
So I feel with language is the choice of words that you use.
Yes.
That will make it either comical or serious. So, like, when you are presenting something, it's the way you go about it. I remember at home, I had the chance to witness that's between my dad and my mom. And my dad used to beat my mom. So what I did was I wrote a poem about it. I think I've recited it so many places. And then one day I just told him that I have a poetry performance for him. So I did a poem for him, and he didn't like it. Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot, but would you like to share some, maybe an excerpt or something?
It's 3 minutes long. I don't know which part to actually pick to make it.
That's fine.
Yeah. So I shared a piece with him, and he didn't like it, and I felt it was my choice of words I chose to use. But also, it is, you see, because we live in a particular culture where even when kids see something that's wrong, it is hard to confront an older person. So the poetry also served as a medium because it's not a banter. I'm performing for you. So then I perform for you.
Only the two of you?
Just the two of us.
What were the words? I want to know the choice of words.
I think what is saying that
it is so first of all, I told him the things I'm seeing at home.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And how, like, my mom takes care of a lot of things in the house with him, helps him out. But then in the end, like, he beats her. That's not a good way to repay her for being a good companion. Do you get it? Yeah. So I was telling you, I'm sure he was thinking, the kid is telling me things. How come I didn't know this or something?
Yeah. It makes you understand, realize.
Exactly. Yeah. That though we are kids, I knew what was going on. And he was quiet, very quiet. There was no exchange of words, nothing. And then just silently, he left the room.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did he stop?
He didn't stop. But I think it reduced. And I felt that when we are around, it was a bit less.
Yes.
Okay. So back on you, since you're talking.
Yeah, but just to add to that, but in recent times, I mean, you watch, the day to have and to hold Queen of Accra, you realize that women are given roles that depict multi-dimensional characters. Yeah. I mean, they are offered roles that give them a seat at the table. They are equal decision, they have the power to take decisions, and that shows that we are getting somewhere. Yeah.
Okay. So, as Joel spoke about how he used his poetry to advocate for his mother. Mm-hmm. And you're also talking about how women are given multi-dimensional roles. I think the whole point is so that women will be seen as like people who are capable and not objects to be abused. Now, as men, when you are doing these things, how do you balance creative freedom and overshadowing the voice of women? Advocacy works when you are speaking for someone, but then true advocacy comes when you empower the person. Instead of, your voice is not supposed to overshadow theirs somehow. Yeah, so how do you do that, the balance?
The thing is this, I think we are guilty of using the woman's pain as a plot to enhance the man's journey for being a hero in a film. So you realize that maybe in a film, a lady is being abused by a man, and then the lady end up being saved by another man. So that pain in itself is used as a way to highlight or highlight the power of another man, and that's something we have to be mindful of. Do you get it? So
when you watch this, even Western movies, the man is like some badass assassin or whatever, and you go into his past, and it's because somebody murdered his wife in the beginning of the film.
So even in and the man paying back all his revenge, it's still elevating the man because I am the one that has come to save the situation.
Yes.
And that's something you really have to look at, because if you want to balance it, you have to be real, you have to be very authentic, and ask yourself that the POV, whose POV am I telling the story? And am I exploiting the matter, or am I empowering the person in the film? And it's something critical that you have to do, because if you don't take care, you talk about films that are produced to empower women, films that highlight the abuse, but we do not talk about the impact that these abuse have on these women. As a filmmaker, like even as a script writer and all that, when you are writing for women, you write it from the perspective of you have seen them and you are far from them, so you write it like that. So I can write a story about a woman who was abused and everything, like how she came out of the abuse and found her feet and all that. But I'm writing it because probably I've seen it from afar, but I have not lived it. I have not experienced it. And the only way to do that is to empower female writers and to let them tell their story from their perspective. And sometimes people accuse Tyler Perry of this because he doesn't know. He's just things he's seen and he's writing and he's putting them together. So we find people say, Tyler is only writing this kind of films. And people also argue that that is what is happening in his world and in his space. And so he's writing it.
As you are mentioning Tyler Perry,
I know what you're having to do.
Because there are memes going on about what did black women do to Tyler Perry?
Do you get what I'm saying?
Because they are always suffering.
So I think that what you can do is so is it real? Is it authentic? Responsible? And when I write films for women, like for every Anobia, Bush Allowance and all that, I send it to my female friends. I need you to read this script and see, like, look at it critically, put yourself in their shoes and check if I'm actually representing it well. Because I'm a guy writing it.
Okay.
And some of them, they'll read and come back and say, no, you need to change this part. You need to, give this girl audience, like give her more words to say, or let her be silent, because this is what happens. Because you see an abusive person, you see that they go through it, but in their closet, when they're alone, how do you capture that if you are not there with them? But if somebody has lived it, he can tell you and you can capture it well.
Okay. So basically, you don't just tell the story, you collaborate with other women to help you tell the
hear
story.
Their story so that it is represented well.
All right. So, Jewel, I spoke in the beginning, I spoke about my own experience with sexual assault from a male friend, someone who was a friend. He's dead now. Anyway.
Oh, sorry.
R.I.P.
I was writing to advocate, but in a way, I ended up reiterating the harmful gender norm. As a poet, how do you think poets should, if they are going to use poetry as a tool for advocacy, write without, because you had an effect on your dad. He reduced his acts of violence. So what can poets do to, help the situation?
So I think for what it's worth, like, gender abuse comes in so many dimensions. I call it PCC. The P is for physical. The C is C actually, SEE. So sexual, economic, emotional, and the last C is cultural.
Okay.
So those are the dimensions. Now, when writing about these, like, you have to make sure because anything you write, anytime someone recites, it creates an imagery. There is the details to what happened are not necessary. Sometimes when you paint the picture that clear, it creates a different scenario for predators or anyone that quote unquote sees it in a way to get you or something like that. So I think we should dump down on the imagery and then talk about the painful aspect of what is going on instead.
Okay, so
take care.
Avoiding the same as the news reports that we talk about, how they will describe in very vivid and gory details what's happened.
Exactly. Because it's not something to be enjoyed. Like, the person has been abused. They didn't enjoy it.
All right. So I'm back to film, and since you're also into filmmaking, maybe you answer. We've spoken about how film portrays abuse and blah blah blah. But what about positive masculinity? How can we use film to portray masculinity in a healthy way?
Okay, I think that again, as a filmmaker, a director, and all what you can do is, what message am I putting across? How are the men in my film projected? How many films do you watch, you find a man apologizing, or a man being vulnerable, a man sharing their? You don't, unless it is stuck like a man's movie or a guy. You don't find a lot of that.
It's usually strong emotions like anger.
Do you get it? But when those are portrayed and ordinary people, I did a film for Aquaman Magic. What's it? Berima.
Okay. Yes, very much.
So the man made the mistake, and the man had to actually come and apologize, like talk to the son about it. This is what happened. I made a mistake. But the son got angry, left, and the man had to go back and go and look for the son and bring him back home. So we need to tell stories that show empathy, vulnerability, and also shared power. Do you get it? So Peter has this film, Kitiki.
Okay.
Kitiki, you see Kitiki? You have seen Kitiki, yes.
Yeah.
Between Pusha, his name has even escaped me.
Ajite
Adan and Lee, they are forcing that film. And just two people, and they share the power. They had to share ideas. And I can tell you, even as a man, I can't count the number of times my wife has been right with her decision. Like, we need to do this. I'm like, no, we have to do this. And then she said this, and she ended up being right. So now I listening. Like, I listen a lot to her, and we take decisions together and everything. So empathy, responsibility, shared power. Let's project that on our screens so that they know that it's not only about you and the head authority and all that.
Joe.
And I think movies are a combination of real matters on the ground and fiction. And then, and it's also a form of entertainment, but can also be educating.
Yes.
So if there is something we see that we really want to correct, we can create an imagery solution for the viewer to pick from, to be educated from. So more like we see films from outside talking about how America is great and all Superman, and it's stuck in our head. So from the point you picked as in your movie, the man going after his son, let's say it isn't something we see on the ground around here most often. But if we have more movies like that, it is going to educate more men, and more men are going to follow suit to be, so that they can change for a better character or behavior towards these things.
I think even in addition to that is still empowering more women, not only in front of the camera, but also behind the camera.
Okay.
And giving them position at the table where their decisions matter. Do you get it? Because as a filmmaker, if I have an AD who is a female, and we are taking decisions and all that, and she matters, she knows what she's about, and whatever she brings on board, I'm able to listen so that we can effect those changes. And then you'll be uncertain, something is with there, and she'll tell you that, no, I don't think this is projecting her right. So you get it? So, and I think, again, I come back to Tyler Perry because he's somebody that I love, that I follow. I love, I follow, and I'm amazed at some of the works he does. But you can also, there's a guy that came from his place and was sharing that how he empowers the people he has given audience to, voice to, and matter. It's one of the greatest things that he's done that I appreciate so much. So,
okay. So, I will take us away from film and all that, because at the end of the day, the media mirrors society. So if we are going to even change the narratives, we need to start changing society as well. Of course, we can change the society by the narratives and vice versa. But then again, how are we raising boys differently? Because you said we should portray men as vulnerable. But how are we?
Empathy,
Yes, to have empathy, to have not be always, macho and I'm angry and I'm violent or I hurt women, but to be the kind that empower women. But what would you do? I know you have a son.
I do.
Yes. How would you intentionally endure if you were to have a son? Or I don't know if you have a son, do you?
I have a daughter.
Okay. So if you were to have a son, how are you going to raise them to become the society that we can positively portray in our films?
I think I did mention earlier in one of my submissions that empathy. Boys have to
what does empathy even mean as a man?
Boys have to be taught to name their emotions and to find the root of it and then deal with it. Everything is all, we have anger. I'm angry. But beneath the anger lies root causes. A lot of root causes. So sometimes something didn't go well as planned, or maybe as a man you've been disrespected, something has happened. Those are all root causes. But then we use the anger to cover it all and they say this guy is angry and it's abusive and everything. The best way to teach any child is by doing something that you want them to follow. Kids learn by observing. Yeah. So they say the best gift you can give to your children is how you treat your spouse, how you treat your wife. Because again, I come back to Joel. If what he witnessed his father doing to the mom, do you get it? If it were opposite, Joel will, and you see, it takes a lot of courage not to do what your father is doing. To look at it and say, this is wrong, I don't want to do that. And so the way you treat your wife should matter, because that's how your children are going to treat their wife. Again, you need to sit them down and talk to them. You see, we have this attitude of, oh, hi. Even men. I don't remember the last time when my father was alive that he hugged me. When you did something, we say, oh, well done. Sometimes just a slight handshake, then you are gone.
Yeah.
Talk to them. Let them know how to show empathy, and then let them be part of. You see, when you put boys and girls together for maybe teamwork, they are doing something together, collaborating and everything. It takes away that dynamism of, okay, guys, we're supposed to be hard, we're supposed to be this. But if you're working together with them and teaching them all that, they understand that this is also a human being and not somebody to be discarded. Okay. I grew up in a house with 5 girls.
Oh, okay.
Yes, 5. Grew up and so I understood women growing up, even the way their body changes and everything. I started buying pad at an early age, and when I go there, the guy is looking at me, what do you want? Because I understood who has, maybe this one about that, but who has heavy flow, medium flow, and all that. And so when I got there, I know what I'm buying. I know who, when it starts there, they can't move, who they will power through and all that. So it made me understand all these things that when I got married and my wife is doing that, you have to help, because you have had the experience of it. So if you have a boy child, you have a girl child, and girl is going through something, suffering, she needs to understand this is what is happening to my Abina, and this is it, this is how you help and support. And you know some fathers who cross their legs with their son, and then the daughter is just walking around doing all the work and struggling. That's what you're telling, but let him be part.
Okay.
Do you get it? Let him be part. So I think you teach best by they follow, so you have to do the same thing so that they pick up. Talk to them, get them involved, let them name their emotions. Know that they are not weak for feeling sad or for wanting to cry or share something that happened to them.
Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned that you share the poem that you read to your dad, or you perform for your dad. You do it at places. Have you ever had anyone come up to you after a performance?
Yeah, so many people tell me it's very powerful after I'm done performing, and like they are intrigued and ask how I braved the storm in a way. And I walk them through the fact that I don't know how I turned out different from my dad, because sometimes when you are involved in something, you become it. You get me? And I also don't know how I found poetry, but I think in a way poetry helped, because I kind of research, see what is going on, maybe know that, oh, this is right, this is wrong, this is called gender-based violence, and this. So I get to know and then educate myself. So education was personal. So sometimes when people are speaking against technology, I feel it's a little biased. There is the positive aspect of it because I had a phone to research, and that's what opened me up to this side of the gender-based violence world. So to me, I feel it begins from educating people and educating ourselves as well. If you don't, you get to see what people have done, your predecessors or whatever they call it, or your parents, what they do as right, because what your parents do is basically what you will follow.
Yeah.
And around here, they say you need to obey your parents.
Yeah.
So if they say shut up, you shut up. If they do this and you have to follow, you follow. It takes, I think rebellion is a good word depending on how you use it.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think for what my dad did through my poetry, I rebelled against what he did. And that's what has made me who I am today. And also I think I feel for my mom a lot because like she'll be cooking, doing all the house chores, tired, but will still wake up to wash and all. And after she will receive beatings upon it. I didn't feel that was right. So then
empathy.
I get to see that aspect and be like, nah, this isn't something good I should emulate.
Yeah.
So I think that's one aspect that saved me. And then I remember this particular one. There was some guys behind our house. I have just one sister, but we are 3 boys. And then they tried raping my sister once. So then I ganged up with my brothers. Took my sister with me, and then we went to them. And then like it was chaotic, but we made them understand that this is our sister and we are protecting her. And if they come close, we will also show them shaggy. And even after that, I think after that point, we also went to the police station to report.
Yeah.
And then made them understand that we've reported. So if anything happens again, they will be in trouble. And that's what I'm saying. It's about education.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So looking at your experience with your mom and how you felt even you had to protect your mom from your dad through your poetry, and you protected your sister from those men. Do you extend that protection to women who are not related to you?
Yeah. So currently I have 2 friends. One is at Accra Poly, and the other is a nursing student that like I came into contact with them through like poetry. And then they told me their stories, similar ones. So I listened to them. I advised them on what to do. Like the fact that your dad was abusive doesn't mean you should entertain any guy who is abusive. And I speak to them on that. The one at Accra Poly is an artist. So we spoke, and I told her that art could also be an advocacy towards this. So she can paint something, then I write on it, and then we go hand in hand. And anytime I see a lady, whether by the roadside or wherever, I try as much as possible to help. My auntie, Ma Lucy, she's at home. She has made me inculcate this behavior or attitude or character where anytime I see a lady with luggage, I tend to help them. So I feel basically ladies are to be taken care of, not as in their babies, but we are much stronger than them. Not to say they can't take care of themselves, but stretching a little helping hand doesn't hurt. And so every lady, every woman is my sister, is family, and if I'm to stand for them, I do so very well.
That's powerful.
And funny enough, yesterday we had a program at Legon.
Okay.
And then a friend from Tema came, but we closed late. We closed around 11. And then I was wondering how she would get home. So I chatted her a boat straight to First Junction, Teshin, because that side you get
easier to get.
Yeah, and then I stood there. She got a car before I moved.
Yeah,
that's powerful. So, not only are you using poetry as an advocacy, but in real life, you are protecting women in your own little way. And you mentioned something about empowering your friend to use arts as an advocacy. Again, so both of you, last question, then we are done.
Okay.
What advice would you give to poets, filmmakers, artists, creatives, storytellers in general? In using art as an advocacy tool so that they can also become allies in the fight against GBV?
Personally, I would say that art, basically, people see it as entertainment. But then there is a way you can pass messages through without people being all defensive and overprotective. If there is an issue between us and I get a movie and I put it down and we all watch, and then after the movie we reflect on the movie, like
the movie has the message.
The movie has the message. It's just beautiful. You don't even come to the conclusion that this guy is trying to trap me or anything, but then you tend to see it as entertainment, and then after you realize, you reflect on it, because music, movies, poetry, sometimes you listen. Maybe over there you don't get it, but they are in your subconscious.
Sure.
The moment you are alone, it plays back. And then, so though it is an entertainment, we should choose topics that will change our system, our culture, and all that. Like he mentioned about the movies. I'm really looking forward to watch that movie where the man apologized to his son and then had to follow him. And these are ways to write and to change wrong narratives and to correct wrong cultural practices. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think, to add to what he said, a lot of partnerships.
Okay.
There are lots of organizations that are out there that are doing advocacy. And when you partner with artists, it travels faster. Because, films act, inform, educate, entertain, all that. So when we come together, we have a message. And I did that with YMCA for over 8 years. We did a lot of films like Picturing My Life in Sierra Leone by a lady photographer who had to choose between her passion and marriage.
Oh, okay.
And then, Carrying Dreams, a young girl who was in early child marriage. And she's pregnant, but the dream she's carrying is not necessarily the baby. Her quest to go to continue her education. We did one in Tamale, bush allowance. The phenomenon where teachers in the North feel that they are entitled to the young female's body as a way of a bush allowance because they are in the bush and they are teaching. It's crazy. And then when you bring this, within that film, and then when you bring it to light and people watch it, they know that this is what is happening and we need to talk about it over and over again so that the appropriate quarters can see and can act. Because it's all about making enough noise for people to see and to jump on board. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. I think I'm glad that you gave us the bush allowance thing, because our next episode, we are going to talk about sexual harassment in the workplace, in schools, this teacher-student relationship, and how it also is part of the problem of gender-based violence. Thank you so much for coming to the studio today, Eddie and Joel King.
Welcome.
If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a man in your life. Thank you.
Welcome.